Kris, and welcome to Plain Rainbows. I'm Mary Byler, and I'm here with my co-host,
James
James.
Fort.
And we have a wonderful guest today. This is Kris. Everybody meet Kris. Kris is a non-binary person who was born plain, and they have an interesting story to tell about learning not to hate yourself.
Oh, hello everyone. Growing up plain, your gender roles are very strictly enforced. You have a clear line, this is men's work, this is women's work, and there's no concept even, it may have changed recently, but, when I was growing up, there was even no concept of that there was the possibility of anything other than that. So you have these strict roles that you're expected to play. If you're a woman, you're expected, you do the dishes, you take care of the children, and you do all that stuff. If you're a man, you work outside, you do all the heavy labor and everything like that. And growing up, I didn't fit in that. I wanted to do, I didn't think it was fair that I couldn't do the stuff that the boys could do.
You wanted to go ride horses, huh?
I wanted to do everything. Everything the boys could do was more fun. I don't care what it was. I don't care. It was better. And there's growing up assigned female. You're the lowest rung on the ladder.
True. Are you talking about the difference between how you get treated as an assigned female at birth versus like a male? Like
yes.
When you're assigned male at birth, like you
yes.
automatically have a privilege that comes with it in a plain community.
Oh yeah,
or at
definitely.
least in all the plain communities and the ex-plain community people I've spoken to, there was definitely an element of like being assigned male at birth gave you like an extra privilege.
Well, even a privilege over the mothers.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the mothers should have, more authority over the children. But if you're a boy child, you have more privilege.
Right. And sometimes these boy children will go in and they will like tell the mother like, well, I need this person to do this. And the mother will be like, okay, Roger,
Yep.
done.
Yep.
Because why? Why do you think that is, James?
Well, there's definitely the aspect of the hierarchy in place, right? And there really is a hierarchy within the Amish, at least in my experience. There's a certain power structure, and that dynamic plays out all day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
It comes to gender, it comes to, sexuality, everything has its roles. And any deviation from that role. Well, okay, growing up a lot, if I want to do something and give a little bit of an attitude about the fact that I wasn't allowed to do something that I thought would be good to do because it wasn't the proper role for me, and if I gave any attitude, this is something a lot of, English people wouldn't understand because you only know the phrase for this in LGBTQ. But my grandmother would tell me to stop acting queer.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Now
right.
that, but it's not how you think of when you're thinking LGBTQ. That's not the way queer is used, in that you're being contrary, you're being
disobedient.
Yes.
You're being ungehorsam, which means disobedient again.
Well, and also I was also said about always stop being such an oxcup, which literal translation is ox head, but it's when you're being hard-headed
or
Stuba.
Yeah, that one, stubborn.
Yep.
Yeah, stubborn. Dad always told me you got to be different than everybody. You know, when I was growing up, I had this irrational fear. I had this very deep-seated fear that my mother was going to leave me, and she passed away of breast cancer when I was 9. But way before that, had this deep fear that she was going to leave me, to the point where when it came to church on Sundays, I would sit with my mother. I wouldn't go sit with the other boys. I sat with my mother.
Oh,
Ooh, hoo,
you
hoo.
were on your horsem. Look
And
at
so,
you,
Wow.
James.
and then after she passed away, I sat with my dad. I didn't sit with the other boys because I didn't really know them that well. They were kind of strangers to me, even though, I saw them every other Sunday or something, or maybe the odd social event, like a wedding or a funeral. But, we didn't really have a lot of back and forth with other Amish in the community. I think we did earlier when my mother was still alive, but after she had passed, you know, um, the dynamics sort of shifted.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I can definitely relate to that because I can remember some of the other boys, like being really confused why I sat with my mother or why I sat with my dad. And I never really gave an explanation because I didn't really have one to give. It was just, I'm sitting with my parents at church. That's it. And that, no one ever really, um, a bishop or a church official never really gave me, a hard time about it. They just sort of accepted it.
You were like me. You were a little different, and being
That's what,
different is not easy.
It's also not a good thing.
that,
No.
that is true because I have a physical disability with my arm and my hand. So therefore, it was easier for me. Like I went out and baled hay with my dad, but I also did dishes and did the housework.
Oh,
Yep.
yep.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All of those things made you a target, James, because you were different.
Yeah, and different is
Oh, for
not
sure.
good. I remember one time I was in ninth grade. I went through 10th grade to school,
Mm-hmm.
which made my aunts mad because they only went through 8th. But I was in ninth grade, and one girl got told that people thought, that she was a lot like me. And that was a major insult. She took that really hard because I was the outcast. I was different,
Mm-hmm.
and being different is never good inside the playing community. You're supposed to be this cookie cutter of, if you're a girl, there's this cookie cutter of exactly what you're supposed to be. If you're a boy, there's this cookie cutter of exactly what you're going to be. And I think one of my biggest fears growing up was what I could be stuck in as an adult. There's this whole perception that escaping, the playing community is so easy, but it's not.
No, it's not. I will vouch for that. I'm sure James will vouch for that. It's a different culture. It's a whole different culture. Oh, we just lost him.
We lost James.
Uh-oh. Maybe he'll come back. But no, like you had this different culture and all of that. So I guess my next question would be, so how did that affect how you viewed yourself as an adult when there were strictly defined roles and you didn't fit into those roles?
Well, I know for a while I thought there was something wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's easy to still think that, if something goes different, well, there must be something wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not everybody else. There must be something wrong with me. And you have to come to the realization that no, being different is okay. There is not just one way to do things.
Mm-hmm. Were you ever called names?
Yes. Um, Abomination, you know, there's the let's see. There was the whole using being like me as an insult, that and the closest I had ever heard was like, I was supposed to stop acting like a boy.
You're supposed to stop acting like a boy?
Yeah.
Well, on that note, acting like a boy, so like, my egg donor told me multiple times that life would be easier if I had just been born a boy.
Well, and that's so true in that community, though.
It is. And while factual, it was also really hurtful because, yes, I wanted to go do the things, but that was really hurtful.
Yeah. But, being born assigned female at birth, you're under the church, you're under your parents, and then you have to hope that you get married correctly, that whoever you're under for the rest of your life then isn't going to make your life hell.
Yep. So, how do you find peace with like all of those things? Like, what journey did you take that kind of gave you peace with, like, how I call myself disobedient, and yes. I've heard you do this with the word abomination.
Yes,
like,
I call myself an abomination a lot. It was a long process. I mean, because when I first left, there was a lot of anger, self-hatred, and, self-harm. But
so
there's,
Yeah.
That was that way before I left, too. There's things you do to cope. But it was a long process in learning that they're full of shit.
They're full of shit?
They're full of shit. You know what I mean? The fact that they allow all these horrible things to happen, which both you and I could spend hours and hours talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But facts. Yet they want to then judge somebody else for being different. They want to use, scriptures in Leviticus and shit like that to label us abominations and all sorts of stuff.
And judge us. And
right.
Well, so I have a thought, and I would like the people to hear this, to think about this. So, number one, if you go back and you research the original translation of that verse, it was supposed to be pedophiles, not homosexuals.
But yet they let pedophiles run rampant in the church.
The irony, right? There's so much irony in that. And then secondly, like, I would also ask them, like, do you feel like, because if God created each and every one of us in his own image and light, are you saying, when you call me an abomination, are you saying that God made a mistake? That's what I would like to know.
Well, and then there's still, I'm an abomination, but yet I still get tracks and shit from them now that they found out where I live on my doorstep. Yeah, leaving's so easy, but they never let you go. They keep hounding you, but yet you're an abomination.
Yep.
And where's the supposed Christian attitude in that?
My question is like, are they hounding you to be like with them as the abomination that they consider you to be and that they label you as? Or are they hounding you to be with them in a way that they want you to be?
I believe it's, think of the pats on the back any of them would get if they could get you to come back and be the perfect person that they wanted all along. But then also,
Yeah,
you know,
I'm inclined to agree with that.
oh
Yeah,
my word, all the accolades they would get.
yeah, like that would be like a big, big, huge accomplishment for them if they
Oh
could,
yeah.
and have you renounce your abomination status.
Right. But also, it's a lot of times what they're doing is more for the gossip. They want to know what's going on everywhere. You know, let's be honest, like the prayer times and stuff like that, it's just a gossip circle.
It really is. So
So,
when you're talking about the internal homophobia, the continued harassment from them, and all of that, like how do you find peace with that? How do you embrace yourself when you feel like you're so bad? Like what steps did you take to get here?
um, first there was a lot of deprogramming, you know, as you'd say, because there was you'd have a thought and you'd be like, oh, but the church says this, the church says that. Well, guess what? If I go and get this job outside here and I work, doing what would be considered man's work, but I'm supporting and supporting my family, I'm doing something good. You
That's
know,
right. You're right. You're absolutely right.
they might not like it. Oh, I got pants on? Well, guess what? Wearing a skirt would be a occupational hazard that could get me hurt or killed. I think that's more important than, whether I got pants on.
Those are facts.
But I also will admit I got pretty angry, and I still do a lot of times. When you go out and about and you look at the hypocrisy, the women, you can see them from a mile away. You got the head covering, you got the cape dresses, but then the men, they can blend in with Joe Smo on the street
Mm-hmm.
when you're talking about, the Eastern and the horning and stuff like that, because what are the men wearing? They're wearing, dress pants, slacks, and, dress shirts. So,
Yeah.
everything I started researching all the double standards and all the stuff that they say, well, this is wrong, you're an abomination for this, but then they'll go eat shellfish. Well, you want to go to Leviticus for about gay people, but if you also look in Leviticus, there's strict dietary laws. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I should know, I work in a food company. We have to go through certain steps for stuff to be kosher for the Jewish people to be
Mm-hmm.
able to legally eat it according to their laws. Well,
Yeah.
you want to go to Jewish laws for the one thing, you better follow the Jewish laws of all the other things.
Yeah. That's
And then I can go to the scripture about, you're neither in the New Testament, you're neither man nor woman under Christ. So, let's see. You want to judge people for how they're dressing, what they look like, but according to God, you're neither slave nor free, man nor woman. You know what I mean? So they can all shove that up their butts.
wow. That's
And at the
I mean,
point they want to judge me is at the point where they, it says about removing the speck from your own eye before you worry about the plank in your neighbor's eye. There's a lot of specks that the plain community needs to remove before they have any right to judge anybody else. So, I'll proudly claim my abomination status in their eyes because, At least I'm not, supporting pedophiles and sending them out in the mission fields to take advantage of people, in other countries and everything like that, all the while, oh, we're doing the Lord's work.
You don't consider that the Lord's work when they're sending people into the mission field and sending, Cam?
Oh my word, Cam. Cam, I would love to see disbanded as an organization. I mean, I know there's plenty in the plane community who still support Cam, after all the news broke of everything that happened. They're like, well, you can't judge a whole organization because of a few corrupt men. But there's still been no open accountability there. They've tried to sweep everything under the rug. And so if an organization sends, let's say, 3 pedophiles out into the mission field, and they do how much harm, and nothing really changes, how are you not going to guarantee that they're not sending another 20? Because, they've already shown that they aren't properly screening the people that they send into the mission field.
So I think I'm reconnected again. Hello, everyone.
Welcome back, James.
Thank you. What did I miss?
Well, we're talking about
the mission
field and the harm it can do.
And
the inappropriateness. I mean, it's kind of a captive audience. You are supplying needs. It's kind of the same thing that happens some in this area with some of the places. They're like, we'll give you food. We have this food for you. You're in need. But you need to listen to what we have to say. And so you're having this audience. You have people who have need. We'll come and dig wells for you, but you have to listen to our story about Jesus. You have this power dynamic. And then especially when you have pedos going out like that, and these people, children getting taken advantage of because there's the power dynamic. Oh, my 14-year-old child's been taken advantage of, but what do I do? Because if I do something, there goes the food supply.
Wow. That's extremely harmful and disheartening to hear.
There's no way that helping people should be tied to missions. I have no problem with Christians going and helping, after tornadoes, helping people in need. But when you tie it to people having to listen to your brand of religion, whether it be Christianity, Islam, anything.
A religious price tag.
Yeah. There should not be a religious price tag on receiving help.
That's
very true.
What about, do other cultures have different beliefs from the plain people, like Anabaptist background, beliefs regarding, marriage and homosexuality, transgender people, etc., that affects, how do they address that as missionaries?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, the Charity Church has sent missionaries to Africa, and they also have a big seeker culture, where you'll have families coming in to the Charity Church that are divorced and remarried, and the wife will get told that her and the husband have to separate because it's not a valid marriage, because it's one of their, one of them, it's a second marriage or something. Oh, but don't worry, the church will take care of you. But you have to separate. You have to traumatize all these children because your marriage is not valid. It's adultery. And so to be right in the eyes of God, you need to separate. And going to Africa, where I know there was a missionary in a place where a lot of the men would have 3 wives, and have 3 families. And it became a huge controversy whether do the men only be able to have the first wife anymore and the other two have to separate because, it's wrong to have more than one wife according to their, so you have to convert to our brand of Christianity and then you have to abandon two of your wives.
Yeah, see, I have a
What if
problem with that too because you're totally ignoring the African the culture. You're not learning anything about. I mean, you're basically inflicting your own values on a different culture. And that's totally wrong and it's harmful. Um,
it's like
I mean,
saying,
we could go on and on about the damage, but you're basically, yeah, you're erasing a culture and inflicting your own, and you're putting your own culture in its place,
Well,
and
it
then
happens in like Taiwan too, in the whole, like
the,
ladyboy culture.
the
You know,
Philippines,
I
absolutely.
hmm
you know, the whole third gender, is viewed by Anabaptists as wrong. So, the whole trying to reach out to these people, but then you have to change who you are because who you are is wrong.
See, yeah, that's why the Amish could never move to Hawaii, is because the whole practice of shunning conflicts with the Hawaiian value of aloha, which is love and kindness and togetherness. I mean, there's more to it than that, but like when I talked to Native Hawaiians about Amish culture and they learned about shunning, they were completely shocked. Like the idea of separating family is just not possible. Like you would not just do that for
Well,
whatever
right,
reason.
it's not love.
Right? It's not love. Exactly, it's not love.
But if you'd ask Anabaptists, they'd say they love, people.
Right? Love the person and hate the sin or
Oh,
whatever.
that's
yeah,
such a
that's just,
harmful
yeah, it's
theology.
bullshit.
That's bull. We are at about, we got about 2 minutes left. Do either of you have parting words for everybody?
You have to remember, no matter, you know, gay, straight, bi, trans, cis, I mean, you are who you're supposed to be. You know what I mean? And that's not wrong.
Absolutely.
No matter, if somebody's trying to tell you that you are wrong because you are not their idea of who you should be, they're the
Mhm.
ones who are wrong. You have
Right.
to be true to yourself.
Can I just add to that? Be who you're meant to be, not who you think the world wants you to be.
Exactly. Because if you try to
Absolutely.
be who they want you to be, you're never going to truly be happy. You
Yep.
have to be who you're supposed to be.
Yep.
And embrace and love yourself and show yourself the kindness you wish your family would have shown you if your family doesn't embrace you.
Yes. And if your family doesn't embrace you, don't be afraid to say goodbye to the toxic environment.
Yes, because you deserve better than that.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. And
Alrighty. Oh, go ahead, James.
yeah, I was just gonna add on to a point, and for people that are leaving like the Amish or a plain background, like so oftentimes you're taught that the outside world is a very sinful, evil place. And I would just kind of like to draw a moment of attention to this and say to to our listeners, as the world is not, the world is a very large place, and there's a lot of good and love and wonderful people in the world. And for whatever you have been taught, you can't go around thinking that people are, demon spawn or whatever right wing extremist ideology that you've been ingrained with. You have to understand that there's billions of people on this planet, and many of them are Buddhists and Muslim and of different faith traditions. And if you can go out into the world with love and curiosity and an open mind, you will open so many doors for yourself. And it's important because we come from a closed society, and to go out into the world or to expose ourselves to other cultures and traditions is frightening, because you're stepping outside of your comfort zone. Um, but know that there is a lot there. Love is in all cultures and in all people, and you will find good people that are a world away from the Amish. Just know
Exact.
that. Know that. Take that with
Yep.
you.
And
And the
on
world's gonna also be whatever you help make it. So if you're going out to try and do good in the world, that brings a little more good to everyone around you.
can we just all say amen?
Amen.
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 Okay.
Amen.